Hello, this is Toy. Welcome back to my channel. If you're an existing subscriber, if you're new here, welcome. And please like, share, and subscribe. So if you've not seen the previous videos on TD Jakes or Cora Jakes or Dwayne Youngblood, who is one of Jakes' accusers, please go into my channel and have a look at those videos. This particular video, we're going to focus on the rest of them. The rest of the Jakes family. So there's not really much to say about them, but as I like to keep quoting, Cat Williams did say all lies would be exposed. So we're just exposing things that they might have buried in the past. I just feel that TD Jakes, being who he is and ministering for as long as he's been ministering for, you need to get your house in order. Your house should have been in order. You're not somebody that should be preaching to people and people should be following, and your family is surrounded by so much controversy. And I'm not talking small things, because nobody's perfect. We're all sinners, we all have something that we need to repent from. Nobody's hands are completely clean. However, there are some filthy dealings going on in your family. Really bad stuff. From alleged child napping to touching up children. And just things that, is just amazing. I can see where, one or two bad seeds. But all of you seem to be bad seeds. I'm sorry to say, I feel awful saying that. I don't want to call anybody a bad seed, but there's just too much going on. You have Sarah Jakes, who supposedly got pregnant at the age of 13. 13 years of age. What is going on in that household that a 13-year-old child would get touched up and pregnant? Now, I'm saying touched up and pregnant because there is no way that a 13-year-old child can give consent. Now, I don't know whether the father of the child was an adult or another teenager, but something went wrong somewhere. Either there wasn't adequate parental supervision or adequate adult supervision, or something horrible happened to that young lady at the time, to that child at the time. And she ended up showing evidence of it by being pregnant at the age of 13. Now, Sarah Jakes has gone on to have many children. I think she's a mother of 6. So, things have turned around and she's been able to build a family. But it's just a very sad thing that in the church, something like that can happen to the pastor's daughter. And if that's happened to the pastor's daughter, what is happening to other young women in that church? Now, Michelle Loud, who accused Cora Jakes of stealing her child, was also a teenage mother coming out of that church. What is going on? I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with teenage pregnancies, but the things that surround teenage pregnancy, instability, sometimes abuse, sometimes, mental health, not having a job, not having proper guidance. And then to come out of a church that's supposed to put these infrastructure in place in a young person or growing child's life, something is lacking. Then you have Jermaine Jakes, who in 2009 was charged with lewd behavior in a public park. Now, the story goes that a member of the public called the police and said that there's something weird going on. I've seen somebody performing a sexual act in the park. Can you please come and investigate? When the police got there, they found Jermaine Jakes there And he turned and faced the investigating officer and proceeded to masturbate whilst making eye contact with the investigating officer. How disgusting is that? One has to wonder if he was under the influence, because that behavior is just so bizarre, so odd. Or is it that he's under such a false sense of self-importance and has delusions of grandeur that he basically thought, I'm a Jakes, I can do what I want and I'm going to get away with it. Because who does that? And then you have the last child, Jamar Jakes. Now, this one, there was nothing controversial per se going on or surrounding him, but I did find it strange that whilst a few years back, whilst TD Jakes was in Nigeria, my home country, as well as the UK, whilst Jakes was in Nigeria, Jamar Jakes had 2 heart attacks, not 1, 2 heart attacks. And Jakes had to run back to the United States to be by the side of his son. Now, I don't know whether this is part of a congenital heart defect or whether he just has a heart problem, but there are rumors and allegations going on out there that the Jakes kids do drugs. And that they mostly do it in their house. I don't know what kind of drugs. I don't know, I mean, but the rumors have been floating around for years that this is something that happens. So I don't know what brought the heart attacks on board, but one has to wonder, perhaps, if it's not a genetic issue, if it's not a heart disease of some sort, what would do it? Is it overindulgence of other things that has caused this heart failure, heart attacks? Or is it spiritual? Because why every single one of the Jakes kids, something is wrong. And the fish rots from the head. When you hear what TD Jakes has been accused of, the fish is stinking and putrid from the head. Very, very concerning. Now, Jamar Jakes, probably the most innocent party in the mix, I don't know. But it's very, very sad. And one has to wonder where Serita Jakes is in all of this. What are you doing? Why is your house in such disarray? And yet, people flock in droves to the Potter's house. Internationally, globally, online, through Daystar, everywhere. I don't know what to say. I think we need to pray for the spirit of discernment. We have to pray for understanding. We have to pray for wisdom. And we have to pray not to be led astray. Because to be spiritually led astray, when something is physical, it's obvious. We can know to stay away from it. If you see a car accident that's about to happen, you can see it. It's obvious. But when it's something to do with your religious, spiritual life, you have to be more vigilant about the people you expose yourself to, the people whose teachings you expose yourself to, the people who you exalt. And you have to be very careful not to trip over into that idolicism sense of things. You can't idolize these false prophets. And to me, TD Jakes is a false prophet. Everything that is about to be exposed about TD Jakes, I believe these men that came out and said that he attempted to do something to them. I believe them because we've heard rumblings for decades. And I do not think men in their 60s or approaching 60, regardless of whatever controversy surrounds them themselves, I'm not saying they're great people, but just because you're not, so just because you did something doesn't mean something can't be done to you. And that's Dwayne Youngblood in particular. I'm not talking about Richard Youngblood and Thomas Anderson, you know. And also I'm not going to dismiss it that it's a shakedown, that they're after money, because I know that the lawsuit of the money and them insisting on money. Sometimes you've got to hit somebody where it hurts, and where it hurts Potter's house might be financially, where Jakes feels it and where he understands it might be financially. But I think this Diddy stuff, when it comes out, is going to be crazy. I don't see him weathering that storm for long, because even if it's a bit silent now, even if we're giving him grace now because of the heart attack that he almost had, eventually, come May, when that trial starts, from May to the end of the year, people are going to start trickling, coming out of the woodwork. Anyway, I think it's very sad. It's scary, and we just need to stay prayed up on this issue. Please let me know your thoughts and your comments below. I'd be interested to hear what your opinion is on this issue, because it's beyond me. It's actually depressing and sad stuff. It doesn't put me in a good mood. I don't feel great about it. But I do think it's important to expose these false prophets for what they do and who they really are, and what surrounds them and what they covet under their roofs, so that we can be careful who we follow. Until next time, bye-bye.